So I'm going to be starting a video series on a plant that I very much admire and respect. It has brought me a lot of joy, pleasure, and mentally stimulating experiences throughout my mid-20s and now early 30s. I initially wanted to just, learn a lot more about the plant, the history of it, the science behind everything that's going on in the brain and whatnot, but I decided to make videos along the way as I'm learning stuff. So in this first video of the series, I'm going to go all the way back in time to our first known instances of use. I personally knew absolutely nothing about any of these before looking into it, and I'm sure many of you are in the same boat as well, so let's learn something together. So we're going to start with the furthest back instance that we are aware of at this point. We're going to go 8,000 years ago. So there were seeds that were discovered that date back to 6,000 BC. So these seeds were found in China and Japan regions, and there's some evidence that suggests that the plant was being used for psychoactive experiences in shamanic rituals. That last bit is according to ScienceDirect.com, but we don't actually have concrete proof that there was psychoactive use at that point. A few thousand years later now, we have some of our first dealers of the plant. By this point, in about 2000 BC, the plant had already been widespread throughout Mideast and Europe, probably originating from Central Asia. The distributors or dealers are known as the Silk Road traders, and they carried high THC strains. A few centuries later, the Arab traders of the plant referred to it as kanab. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that exactly right, but it is the origin of the popular C word that is used for the plant today. And that's according to the National Library of Medicine. About 3,000 years ago now, in Hinduism, the plant played a key role in their sacred practices. So Hindu texts like the Vedas commonly refer to the word bhang, which is B-H-A-N-G, which is like a plant-infused beverage which brings about enlightenment and healing. Also, the mythical soma, which is commonly referenced in Hindu mythology, represents the moon and a spiritual or ritual drink, and many scholars argue that this ritual drink is also associated with our favorite plant and the experiences that it curates. Moving over to the Pamir Mountains in modern China, we have our 100% confirmed psychoactive use around 500 BC. So there, archaeologists discovered THC-rich plant residue located within burners that were made of wood at burial sites. And this is according to the Max Planck Institute of Geoanthropology. And they're saying that this suggests that ritualistic smoking was common to commune with the dead up in these mountains. Also, these strains had an insanely high concentration of THC, which means they would have either had to have been selectively cultivated or foraged from super potent plants up high in these mountains. Finally, we have our first recorded hotboxing sessions, also occurring during a similar timeline in China and also used most likely during burial rituals as well. So the plant seeds were thrown onto hot stones within enclosed tents, which created some really loud ass steam baths. And this first hotbox info is according to livescience.com. I also want to add that over in the Americas, they were using various sources for psychoactive trips. Unfortunately, the colonizers came over and wiped out and erased a ton of sacred knowledge from this region. But what I was able to find is that these kind of psychoactive experiences or ritual practices were related to or brought about by other plants, also animal sources and mushroom sources. I personally feel like we actually know so little about the history of the use for this plant. For all we know, it could go back 20,000 years or whatever, but it is really cool to know that we do have evidence of seeds that are dated back 8,000 years ago. As I continue to educate myself more on this topic, I want to study things like the attitudes and perspectives about this plant from various cultures throughout time. I want to study the science of what's going on in the brain. I want to talk about dental hygiene routines for consistent use. I'll probably get into the hippies. I also want to talk about one of my favorite sitcoms, That 70s Show. And yeah, whatever other curious topics arise as I'm digging into things. And if you want to learn along with me, feel free to follow this account.